Hey guys, what's up? So we've got some information about some promo cards used by Joey Wheeler within the series. These are kind of influences on some of his classic cards. So you've got the Thousand Dragon, you've got a smaller version of that. You've also got Time Wizard in there, you've got Gin Zone, you've also got a variation on a synchro-based Harpy Lady. But for this video and for its purposes, we're just going to cover the 100 Dragon. The reason I want to cover these is just so I can go into a little bit more detail on how useful these cards are. And I think it looks better as like small, shorter videos just for you guys to kind of be able to digest them a little easier. This is 100 Dragon. Of course, this is based off the fusion monster 1000 Dragon. It's kind of a midway point between the baby dragon and the 1000 dragon, so this is why it's called 100 dragon. It's probably been alive for about 100 years, who knows. It's a level 4 wind dragon effect monster. It's not too difficult to find out why that is. Baby dragon is a wind level 3 dragon, so this is just an extension on that. And it has 1,800 attack and 1,000 defense. The stat lineup is quite decent for a level 4. Most level 4s don't really go up beyond maybe 2,000 attack points. You do have a couple of them. There's like Goblin Elite Attack Force, which is 2,300, but its downside is that it flips itself into defense mode. And of course, in its defense position, that has 0 attack, 0 defense. So it's kind of useless at that point. This is at least a decent standard. And it says you can only use this card name's second effect once per turn. So the first effect is, once per turn, you can have this card gain levels equal to the number of cards you control. And if it does, it gains 100 attack for each level gained. These changes last until the end of this turn. The second effect is, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck. The next time that face-up monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not destroyed. So let's break down the effects. The first effect is a once per turn effect, and it can only be used on your turn. It's not a quick effect. That's a little bit of a pity. If it had been a quick effect, it would be a little bit better. The gaining levels equal to the number of cards you control is quite decent, because if it was to be both you and your opponent, it would be more difficult to get kind of like the ideal level that you want for maybe a synchro summon, an Xyz summon. So it's probably easier that way. Because if you imagine this situation, like for example, your opponent has 3 cards, you've got 3 other cards, and that would make this a level 10 monster. It would be kind of difficult to kind of adjust levels as effectively. The good side of this card is that even though the attack gain is very minimal, it's 100 attack. If you have several other cards, it's a 2,100 attack monster. It can run over some things, that's okay. But you're essentially able to control more on its levels, because it's not just the monsters you have on your field, it includes your spells and traps. So if you're running a spell or trap heavy deck, even including things like field spells, this is always a good idea. You can balance the levels. You've got some very strong rank 5s, rank 6, rank 7, so you've got like Big Eye as a rank 7. You've got that Psychic Master, which is also it's not really that popular now, but it used to be quite popular, and was at one time quite expensive. You have that Diablosis, the Mind Hacker, which is a rank 7 as well. Rank 6s, you've got like Photon Strike Bouncer, so that's like a monster effect negation, and it also does a burn damage of 1,000. You've got rank 6s, which are quite decent in there, and some quite decent rank 5s. I can't think of any on the top of my head, although saying that, you don't actually have to use this effect. So you can actually just use this for a rank 4 engine anyway. It's not a mandatory effect. The other aspect of it, the second effect, it actually works in conjunction with the first. The whole point of you changing and adjusting levels up is to be able to kind of go into either a synchro summon, an Xyz, or an Xyz summon. In that case, the whole point is to kind of get rid of it into the graveyard. Of course, synchro summoning is probably better than Xyz summoning, for the reason that it actually goes straight to the graveyard. If you're Xyz summoning a monster and your opponent has something that activates on the summoning of that Xyz monster, you can't protect it with this card's second effect because it's an Xyz material. Therefore, it's a little bit more useless. You would need to run things such as a wiretap trap card or some negation cards to prevent your opponent from disrupting your plays, and then making sure to have an Xyz monster that has a detach effect. Not all of the Xyz monsters have that. For example, Gemini Pearl is a vanilla beatstick Xyz monster. Its Xyz materials are simply just to summon it. It doesn't actually ever use them. So in that case, if it's a run that from this, it would be quite useless. I would also say with the level situation, it's a little bit of a problem as well, because you can only level up, you can't level down. It would be great if you could have maybe had the effect to be reversing its effect, because there are some quite decent rank 1s, rank 2s. You've got that Numeron Dragon, which is like number 99, it's number 100. And so you've got all of these effects abilities that you can't tap into as well. The second effect also just gives you that kind of one-time protection for any of your extra deck monsters. So that's Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Link monsters, whatever you want. This kind of protection is decent from the standpoint that, this is generic protection. So long as you're running stuff in the extra deck and you've brought it out from this, you've pretty much got instant access. The only thing I would say is that this is obviously a one-off effect, so you can't be too reliant on it, though having some support like this is okay. I don't think there are that many cards that kind of do that, and maybe some archetypal cards which remove themselves from play to protect your own monsters, but generally it's a good idea. What do you think of this card? Is this something you could consider running? Is there any particular deck you can see it going into, or is this maybe just for those who are fans of perhaps Joey Wheeler and his playstyle? Leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.